For decades, the US built its power on the belief that the USD was the safest currency on the planet.
But that belief is not made of vibranium or adamantium. It can be broken.
Especially after Washington dared to freeze the assets of Russia, a nuclear power, in 2022.
At that moment, the entire world realized that if the US could do that to Russia, they could do it to anyone.
And the next anyone on that list is China. To secure its position, China has quietly accumulated metric tons of gold because they understand the era of the dollar is fading. The only thing that cannot be printed is gold. In this video, let's break down China's strategy to undermine the dollar's dominance using gold.
This will give us an overview of gold's future value. I am William.
The following information is compiled from various sources, including personal experience. So please feel free to comment below if there are any errors or needed correction.
You can also join the William fan page or the Fuqbao community group for crypto knowledge. Links are in the description.
To understand why gold is now the center of global finance, we must go back to 1944.
The world had just emerged from WW2 and desperately needed a stable monetary system for reconstruction. At the Bretton Woods Conference in the US, 44 nations agreed to make the US dollar the center of international finance. The commitment was that $35 would equal 1 ounce of gold. The US essentially became the world's gold vault.
Nations believed they could exchange dollars for gold anytime. This mechanism created a dual trust.
Trust in gold, a tangible asset, and trust in the US, the strongest nation. But the problem with trust is that it only lasts until someone challenges it.
In the late 1960s, the US printed money heavily to fund wars and welfare programs. The circulating USD greatly exceeded the actual gold reserves, and the world began to question, does the US really have enough gold? This historic event, known as the Nixon shock, meant the USD was no longer backed by gold, but only by trust in the US. A discreet agreement with Saudi Arabia dictated that all global oil must be traded using the USD.
Since oil is the lifeblood of the economy, anyone buying energy was forced to hold dollar reserves.
Despite being detached from gold, the USD dominated, accounting for over 70% of global foreign exchange reserves for half a century.
This created a reality where the rest of the world had to truly work for money, while the US only needed to print paper to purchase the wealth created globally.
A financial order that was both clever and paradoxical. But no empire lasts forever. According to the IMF, the USD's share of global reserves fell from 71% in 2001 to 54.8% in 2024. China. They are not just accumulating gold at the state level, they are strongly encouraging businesses and citizens to buy physical gold.
Beijing understands that when the dollar depreciates, only gold can maintain its true value.
The irony is that the culprit shaking confidence in the dollar isn't an external enemy, but how the U.S. and the West use money as a political weapon. The U.S. froze over $300 billion in Russian foreign exchange reserves. This action went beyond sanctioning Moscow. It directly attacked the very trust that made the USD the world's safest currency. The whole world questioned the U.S. action. If Russia's assets can be frozen over a political disagreement, what about mine? This question spread like a virus, becoming the nightmare of every central bank, from Beijing to Ankara and Brazil.
No nation wants hundreds of billions in USD reserves to depend on the goodwill of another country, even if that country is a superpower.
Furthermore, the US have a history of betraying allies if the price is right. Thus, a silent wave began.
Strategy is diversifying reserves, seeking non-political assets that can't be frozen or printed.
The brightest candidate is gold. We could talk about Bitcoin, but it is still too new and too volatile for the typical national appetite.
Gold is not just a metal. It is humanity's collective memory of true value.
After the 2008 financial crisis, trust in the banking system wavered, and central banks began buying gold at an unprecedented pace. This trend, unseen since the 1960s, was led by China and Russia, two nations with clear political reasons to fear the dollar. In just a few short years, they accumulated thousands of tons of gold, both as defense
and preparation for a new financial order. The key fact is that China accumulates gold very quietly and systematically, almost never disclosing their full holdings. Western experts estimate that China may hold double the officially reported amount of gold.
In major European cities like London, consumers are familiar with long lines to buy gold and shops posting sold out signs.
It's not sold out. Merchants know the price will keep rising, so selling now is less profitable than selling later. But the most notable player in this entire gold landscape remains China, the US's biggest rival in the 21st century. Since 2015, the People's Bank of China began reporting its gold holdings. Officially, they hold around 2,300 to 2,400 tons.
But everyone knows that is just the tip of the iceberg. Independent organizations estimate the true figure may exceed 5,000 tons.
When a nation accumulates gold almost non-stop for a year, it's not a defensive reflex. It's a strategy. This strategy was conceived after the 2008 crisis, when China realized the U.S. could use money as a financial weapon to cripple an economy with a single sanction.
They understood that depending on the dollar was like handing a knife to the U.S. and inviting them to hold it to their throat.
Beijing needs a new weapon, one that can't be printed, frozen, or manipulated. And that is gold. China isn't just accumulating gold. It's building an entire ecosystem around it. The core of this system is the Shanghai Gold Exchange Pledge. Unlike the West, where gold is often traded via paper derivatives, SGE trades in physical gold that can be touched and transacted. The SGE is the largest physical gold market globally.
Beijing is using it to expand its financial influence globally, establishing a gold corridor.
Now, if the U.S. wanted to freeze China's gold, they would physically have to go to financial centers outside their orbit.
This is practically impossible. Dubai, in particular, has become the new transit hub for Eurasia.
Gold from Russia, Iran, China, and India quietly changes hands there in non-dollar transactions. China is also digitizing gold. Each bar is tokenized and can be directly converted into yuan at a fixed rate. You can deposit gold and withdraw yuan, similar to trading stablecoins, except this stablecoin is real and weighs several pounds. This method not only creates liquidity for gold, but also makes gold the collateral for the national currency, a direct path to forming a parallel IMF where nations can borrow gold-backed yuan instead of debt-backed US dollars. While the US lends paper, China lends a metal that has existed since the time of emperors. This makes many countries question, between paper currency and real metal, which is more trustworthy? Of course, the US is not sitting still. Washington understands the rules are changing. They have quietly repatriated some gold reserves from London back to Fort Knox.
Meanwhile, new gold supply increases by less than 1% annually.
Demand exceeds supply, and since the big buyers are the system's market makers, gold breaking its historical peak is only a matter of time.
The next 5 to 10 years, no one should be surprised if the price of gold doubles its current value.
When the dollar loses its sole dominance, historians will call this era the multipolar currency century.
A period where the world stops relying on a single currency and begins to redistribute power on the global financial chessboard. The new system will resemble a multipolar chessboard. On one side, the gold-backed yuan. On the other, the dollar, revitalized by financial technology, using stablecoins, CBDCs, and even Bitcoin as its weapon.
Very possible they will use blockchain technology, something China is wary of, to maintain their influence in the digital age.
The 20th century was defined by oil and bullets. The 21st century will be defined by gold and algorithms.
Gold and technology are two extremes, reflecting the deepest human nature. One seeks safety and permanence.
China will use gold to certify the reliability of the yuan, while the U.S. will use blockchain to prove the transparency of the dollar. The story once again boils down to trust, the force that has shaped the entire economic history of mankind. But if history teaches us anything, it is that gold has never lost the battle for trust. It challenged the Roman Empire when the denarius was debased and survived the collapse of the gold standard. This time will likely be no different. Gold will continue to exist quietly but persistently,
and those who hold it will rewrite the rules of the financial world.
Who wins? The future will tell.
But one thing is certain. After nearly a century of the USD dominating the financial
We are now
throne,
living through historic times, witnessing the great battle of our era, the war between trust and currency. Thank you for watching the entire video. I am William. Goodbye, and see you again.